So today's topic, Reclaiming Our Future, the Global South in the Reconstruction of the Post-Hegemonic World Order. On this topic, my friend Hilman Fikri Azman would like to speak for almost 30 to 40 minutes. And his introduction is that he is currently the Regional Director for Center for Islam in the Contemporary World. Before that, he was Executive Secretary for International Institute of Islamic Thought from 2019 to 2025, and he has been a researcher at International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization in the year 2019, and he has some publications as well in various journals like Johor Journal of Civilizational Studies on a topic of legal positivism and the rise of the legal. And then he had this another very interesting topic, the post-Munkid al-Ghazali's position. And then in another journal with the name of Critical Muslim, and the title was India in the Shadow of Empire. He is a graduate of International Islamic University of Malaysia. He did his BA honors in Theology and Comparative Religion. And then recently, he did his MA Post-Colonial Studies from SOAS, School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. So I would just try to be very brief, to share just very briefly my own views on the importance and significance of today's session, Reclaiming Our Future, the Global South in the Reconstruction of the Post-Hegemonic World Order. Pakistan is a Muslim majority country. We are part of OIC, 57 countries which constitute OIC. As a Punjabi Muslim, one has to realize that when Pakistan became an independent state in the 5th decade of the 20th century, it was already at that time, by that time in Pakistan, in the wake of Second World War, when the British Empire could no longer control its most outlying possessions. With the exception of modern-day Turkey and with the exception of modern-day Iran, every Muslim country has experienced colonialism for 100 years, for 200 years, for 300 years, for 400 years. In case of Punjab, it was colonized 10 years after the death of the Lion of Punjab, Maharaja Ranjit Singh, in the year 1849 by the forces of the British East India Company. Sindh was conquered 6 years before that, in the year 1843. Parts of Balochistan and modern KPK were never fully colonized due to the terrain, but they substantially, the most critical passes were in the control of the British, somewhere from the start of the 19th century and the end of the 19th century. There is a very good book written by a very great and a very favorite author of mine, Frantz Fanon's book, Wretched of the Earth. He terms the independence of the countries like Pakistan, like Egypt, many other, where although on paper we are independent, but somebody else is calling the shot. I am referring to US because in the wake of the, at the end of the Second World War, this world is run by the victors of the Second World War. The people who have the veto power are all the victors of the Second World War. And US has disproportionate influence over not only the economic policies of the country, but also the, it dominates everything. There are many books. There are very good scholars within US who have written extensive scholarship, and it is now open truth. Since 1893, way before US became the dominant global superpower, and after the disintegration of the USSR, they considered that they run the world. They behaved it in the way. They have devastated, they have wrought havoc to countries like Libya. They have, Iraq's invasion was not even allowed by, UN. A million people died because of the hubris of the US empire. There is this very famous policy with the name of regime change. Since 1893, US has been conducting regime change, starting from the Hawaii monarchy in Hawaii. Then in the aftermath of the Second World War, it is in the context of the Cold War, they did the regime change of very popular Mossadegh in Iran, just because he nationalized the oil, and the regime change in 2014, which triggered the attack by Russia, and now poor Ukrainians have lost 15 to 20% of its territory, which they are not going to recover. It is one of the most indebted nation on earth, thanks to fighting the proxy wars of US. So in that and many other ways, not specifically related to necessarily related to US, because it's not only US but others as well. And it's not only about Pakistan or the Muslim countries, it's about the global South. So my friend would be talking about that. Please welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Khizr. As I would like to mention that my friend Khizr was quite concerned if we will be able to talk about the hegemony of US in the global South or the hegemony of global North sitting in Lahore. Would that be okay? Would it be even allowed to have such kind of discussion? So I said that even a Rediwala in Lahore will be quite well aware about this specific topic. So we are very eager and we have some US citizens as well.
UK citizens.
Oh, UK, sorry. Yeah, that is also global North.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening to esteemed discussants. And first of all, thank you to Adnan and Hast-o-Neest, Bazm-e-Aalam, for having us in this auspicious place. I'm so excited to see the collection of the books upstairs and the environment here. And in this informal setting is something that is very rare nowadays in discussions like this. So thank you again. And so a little bit briefing about the title that we're going to discuss today. It is essentially part of my small, humble dissertation that we completed at SOAS recently. And every time we have discussion about this topic, which is essentially about the post-colonial states. You can term it a global South. We used to have the term First World, Second World, Third World, which is a resemblance of French three estates, and then developing and developed world. But now, after criticisms on such categorizations, we have the global North and the global South. Now, is this categorization warranted? It has some criticism. It's considered as unscientific because unscientific is in the sense of it is not technically global North or global South, because in the global South you have countries geographically like Australia, but it's in the category of global North. And then Taiwan, and it used to be the West versus the rest. This was Edward Said's Orientalism. So by etymologically, the categorization is not completely warranted, but for the sake of, not to say simplicity, but for the sake of conveniency and economic of language, so we use the term global North and global South. And so in the global North, you also have, aside from Europe, the United States, Japan, you also have countries that is still considered as part of global South, like China, India, which contributes immensely to the overall economic growth, the total GDP. So this metaphorical categorization is the step that brings us back to Ibn Khaldun's Rise and Fall of Civilization. You have many theories of history of the rise and fall of states, but apparently with Ibn Khaldun's thesis talking about Asabiyah, the racial solidarity, and Malik bin Nabi, later on, the Algerian sociologist or historian in the 20th century, who coined the term colonizabilité, which means to be colonizable, which means to render yourself colonized to other forces, has complemented Ibn Khaldun's theory of rise and fall of civilization in a cyclical history. And when you perceive the rise and fall of nation states in this context, in this framework, it is clear to us that no nation will be on top of the wheel for eternity. And so many books have been written in the context of the fall or the de-hegemonization of the United States today. You have so many works written on this. One of them is titled Westlessness by Samir Puri, who talked about the rising multipolarity world as opposed to unipolarity. So it's not only the United States as the hegemon that dictates the affairs of the rest of the countries, but now the rising powers, especially by China, Russia, and other countries in BRICS, in E7, the emerging 7 countries, is now basically challenge or dethrone the status of United States as a hegemon. Now, having said that, we should ask whether the global South is prepared for a new world order. Say, theoretically, with the fall of United States as the hegemon of the world, will we see another country rise to the hegemon, or will we want to see a multipolar world? Those of you who study international relations would know it's not easy to compromise. Each country has its own ambition, and everyone wants to grab the throne to be the master of the world. Japan used to have that position for quite some time. It invades Manchuria in China and expands its empire up until Southeast Asia. And even fights with Russia. But it doesn't last long. And now it's still an important player, but it's not the hegemon. But say, if the US as the hegemon of the country stop, say for example, in a certain year, will we be able to see a multipolar world, or will we see a new country rise to the hegemon? This is the problem, and this is a theoretical to be answered. I would say the countries of the global South should take active role in determining their future, seize the opportunity now, because most of the superpowers of the world are terribly busy with many wars and inflation and economic hardships. So for example, country like Malaysia, we are very far from the US and Europe and most of the superpowers. So in a sense, it gives us some space to chart our own future. Decolonization has started officially in our own agency in the 1970s. It requires its independence in 1957. But with decolonizing steps like look to the east. We used to look to the west, but now the foreign policy is look to the east. Look at Japan and South Korea primarily. because they share Asian values. And of course, they managed to propel their economic development surpass the expected trajectory by their own selves. If you study, for example, Japanese economic policies and South Korea and Singapore, these are the countries in the East that has been labeled once as the Asian tigers because of their economic policies. It's not because they receive money from, say, certain countries. So look to the East has its merit. It's not merely look to the West because we don't like the West, so we look to the East, because they have close proximity to us and they have their own way to achieve what we call as modernity. Now in the car on the way here, I asked about the word in Urdu. What is modernity in Urdu? He says it's jadidiyat. Well, jadidiyat is also in Arabic and probably in Farsi as well. Technically, it means new. And in Arabic, you have hadith, which means modern or which means new. Modernity in the West, on the other hand, it comes from the word modos. It's a Greek term. And the modernity that we see today is a culmination of a long process. It has its own specific experience of Renaissance, Enlightenment, Industrial Revolution, until it reached to its zenith now. If we study history, 𝐏𝐨𝐬𝐭 is better than me in that. Look into the primary force. What is the driving force? The idea vitale, called Malik bin Nabi, of the Western civilization. It boils down to humanism and materialism. You can trace this down. Usually even Western philosophers would trace it down to Descartes, with the bifurcation between body and mind, body and thought. You have thought and you have extension. And then you have Renaissance, you have Enlightenment, which makes materialism much more influential in the life and minds of European. And then you have modernization, rapid modernization through Industrial Revolution. So modernity is defined in this process. Now, in the context of Global South, I can probably speak on behalf of Malaysia. We don't experience those specific experiences. It's experienced mostly by the UK, France, Italy, the Dutch to some extent. And then in the modern period, the baton is passed to the United States of America. So when we don't experience it, the modernity that we inherit through British colonialism is something that is not organic. When it is not organic, and in some ways it is being imposed, because in Malaysia, and I'm sure in Pakistan as well, democracy is conditioned to be the qualification for independence. Especially when you have abolished the Mughal Sultanate. You need the people to govern, and before we give you independence, we need you to have a proper constitution, law and order, 5-year elections, and political parties. Same goes to Malaysia. So it is not something that we have discursive discourse among ourselves. It is something that is being imposed. Cram a bit, I'm sorry about that. And but this does not mean that we need to reject everything from outside. This is not my message. My message is, as a nation, as a nation that has agency, we need to determine our own system and future without being imposed by other foreign forces. And this means discourse has to be prevalent among the people, and it has to reach the power that be, the rulers, the prime ministers, the presidents. And when you have discourse, means you know more about your own culture, about your own religion, about your own sensitivity, so you know which one we should adopt, which one we should remove. So there's a critical evaluation of these ideas. To some extent, to be fair, it is there, especially during the Arab Spring, 2010, 2013, in Egypt, in Syria, in Yemen. In that region, there is a discussion about Islam and democracy, suddenly, out of the blue, because people start to think about the democratization of the Arab world. Before that, no. Because why? We don't have agency and we are so busy with cost of living and something else that we don't have the time to think about our own future and chart the future ahead. So, I was talking about back to modernity. Now, we should have our own definition of modernity. What is our definition of modernity? Jadidiyat. It means new. In Malaysia, it is what we call as maju, which means you become step ahead. So means, and it doesn't mean to abolish something of the past. In modern Western or modern notion of modernity, you look into the dictionary, the Oxford Dictionary. What is the meaning of modernity? It's about leaving tradition and creating new paradigm. This is Thomas Kuhn. But in the context of Eastern, or I suppose in most cases, we don't leave tradition behind. So tradition must be co-opted into our process of modernization. Ibn Rushd used to say, if you want to develop a civilization, you cannot build from scratch. You have to take the bricks, the mud that has been left by other society or civilizations of the past. Which means, if the Greek has its contribution, let's embrace and build further on top of it. Of course, embrace critically. This has also been the important discourse during the time of Islamic revivalism by the likes of Jamaluddin al-Afghani, Muhammad Abduh, Rashid Rida, Ali Abdul Razik, and others, Muhammad Iqbal, of course. The discussion about what is the kind of modernity that we should have. What are the things that we should discard? What are the things that we should adopt? So this kind of discourse is the thing that makes our modernity organic, contextualized. This is the first principles of decolonization for Global South to chart its future in a post-hegemonic world order. Because unless we are clear about the theoretical conception of modernity, then we are not prepared. Okay, and then in terms of policies, this is the task of the MPs, the member of parliaments that you elected in an election. They should think, what are the decolonization policies that we can adopt? In terms of education, we inherit British I'm speaking on the context of Malaysia. We inherit British educational system.
We did the same. So we are
Okay, the same. But I don't want to speak on behalf of other country because it doesn't sound good, right? So so I can criticize my own country. That's not problem. Thank you very much. What is this? Same.
Same.
Thank you. Bismillah. We inherit British common law. We inherit British political system. It's a Westminster bicameral parliamentary democracy. We inherit. Okay, let's start with the educational system. And how long do I have?
Please take your time.
So, when you learn about the history of civilizations, you learn about Renaissance, Enlightenment, and modernity, World War I, World War II, Cold War, and okay, that will go for maybe 5-6 weeks, and then 1 week to study about the whole history of Islamic civilization from Abbasid up until Ottoman. Just 1 week. And then 1 more week to study about modern history of your nation. So you can see it's very disproportionate. Now, should we blame the British for this? No. But we should take the lead to reform our educational system because this has been inherited and we need to decolonize it and contextualize it. To study your own identity and your own history and culture is, according to Ismail Faruqi, is the hallmark that will give you the sense of ontological security and confidence of your own identity. In most of the Muslim societies, there is this sense of inferiority complex. It's not because they don't have history, but they don't study their own history. But with cautious, we are not studying our history to glorify the past. There has also this trend. You need to be sentimental about the glory of Abbasid, Baitul Hikmah and others. We need to know so that it can be a catalyst for you to recreate that glorious future, but not to be stuck in the past. I don't agree with some of the historian or psychologists that say there's a word for that, melancholia, I think. Yeah, to be sentimental about the history is a disorder. It's not a disorder, but you should not be stuck in the past. Okay, so you study so that you become more confident. You actually contribute to a civilization that impacted other countries and other communities. And at the same wavelength, we should also appreciate the contributions of other nations toward our civilization. That has always been the past. That's why Ibn Sina is not hesitant to read about Aristotle and Plato and Neoplatonism and incorporate it in his philosophy. This is not something to be ashamed of or to be shunned away. It is something that contributes towards the intellectual development of okay, now economic system. In brief, it's capitalism. And you have plenty of critics against capitalism, and some tries to rectify John Maynard Keynes, and some economists from the Islamic thought offer an alternative. This kind of discourse should be there and impactful for the future of the country. Legal system. In the case of Malaysia, we have our own legal system in the past, in the 14th century. British common law replaced that. And as a result, it's not all of it are bad. But you have the continuation of some of the draconian laws, which are being appropriated and abused and manipulated by those in power to protect their own interests. in where do we speak about legal positivism?
At the law college.
Okay. Oh yeah, at the Ravi Law College. So we discuss about legal positivism, where you have laws for the sake of laws, neglecting the maqasid of the laws and the ethical side of it. Because laws are supposed to protect a certain objectives. And you start with the objectives and then you promulgate the law. And now you inherit a law and you're using it, abusing it in the name of law, because constitution is so supreme, so no one's gonna question you. And you abuse that law against political opponents or whoever. And then there's a problem of implementation. You have laws that are there, supposed to be implemented against or for everyone, but then you have certain groups can get away from the law. They are not being trialed, they can get away. So there's that problem as well because of legal positivism. We are so obsessed with laws. If you look into, just giving a brief of this, you can read Wa'il Hallaq, for example, who talks about the previous environment of legal system in the Muslim world. By the way, Wa'il Hallaq is not a Muslim, but he studies a lot about the history. And you can see how the legal system in Islam is so intertwined with ethics. Okay. For example, a person comes to the Prophet, asks, Ya Rasulullah, can I kiss my wife during fasting, Ramadan? The Prophet said, no, you cannot. Another person comes, asking the same question, and he said, yes, you can. This is from a hadith. So, according to standard legal positivism, you cannot have that kind of law. Law must be standard for everyone. But there's ethics in this. There's a contextual aspect to this. Because the first person is a young guy. So, in order to avoid the person becomes, when you kiss your lover, it will probably leads to something else. So the Prophet said no. But then the second person is a much more senior man. So according to the Prophet's judgment, it will not lead to that. So he said, yes, you can. It will not annul your fasting. That's just one example. If you read Abdullah Diras, the morality in the Quran, you will have a better grasp of this. And so I talked about the need to have discussion about what do we mean by modernity, what is the kind of nation that we want to propel forward. So this is what we call as polylogue. Instead of dialogue, we have conversations with many people and stakeholders. This is the nature of the world today. We need to keep in our mind that the world is complex, it is full with contradictions, and it is chaotic. A person who's not well equipped with this fact will not be able to lead in this chaotic world. What do we mean by complex? Nothing today is sufficed with a simple solution. Every problem, there has to be many angles that you have to consider, and therefore require a complex solution. If you offer a simple solution, most likely it doesn't work. What does it mean by contradictions? Well, put it simply, in politics, there are no permanent enemies. Today it can be your enemy, tomorrow it can be your friend. You have to accept that fact. If you don't accept it, you consider this as an eternal enemy, you will not move forward. You cannot lead. We need to accept that fact. There's no permanent enemies or friends. Chaotic, as we know, everything is moved at the same time in a sheer big scale. So this is the fact of the world, and therefore it requires polylog, have conversation with all the stakeholders. So today we have many, you call it demographic, okay? Maybe from the bureaucrats, from the judiciary, from the civil servants, from NGOs, from youth, so you have a plenty of demographic. This is what we need. We need to listen to all perspectives so that we don't remain in our bubble. And so this is my ijtihad, and I need your insight about this. Now, in the context of a rising multipolarity in the world, I am of the opinion that small country like Malaysia, I think Pakistan is not a small country, it's a middle country. It's a middle power. It's
a big country in terms of population.
Yes, but you don't want to continue. Okay. So, but it's a middle power.
Yeah.
Us is probably a small country, less significant. But so I think in the context of Malaysia, in this changing complex world order, we in Malaysia, we need to be in part of any efforts to dethrone the hegemon. How do we translate this into policies? For example, when you have a credible alternative to the United States, for example, BRICS, now what do they have now?
SCU, Shanghai Cooperation Organization.
SCU, and you have a plenty of treaties between specific countries.
SARC.
Yes, TPPA. I think now they changed the name. So our country needs to align ourselves with these efforts. At the same time, we must not allow the emergence of a new hegemon. We need to stick to the objective of multipolarity. Yes, many complain the US as a hegemon, cause so many destruction, wars here and there, interfere in your economics, interfere in your elections and whatnot. But you don't know if countries like China rise as a hegemon, what kind of world we will have. Or a country like Russia, or a country like India, or a country like... So we don't want any hegemon. We need to have a multipolar world. This is very idealistic. But, well, this is my ijtihad. So how do we secure this? How do we secure this? We need to strengthen our international institutions. Give more autonomy to the United Nations. It's a promising institution, actually. If you ask any of the president, even though you ask Putin or Erdogan, who else is very much critical of the United Nations?
Trump.
They still have faith in the institutions. It's just they said, yes, these institutions need not to be monopolied by a certain country. The idea of veto power.
India as well. India is very critical
of the United Nations.
Yes. The Security Council.
Because of the veto Gaza?
Veto power. No.
Oh, because of veto power.
They want their share.
Yeah, right.
They don't want anything else.
I think we have passed that period of veto power. This is a remnants of World War II, the victors. So let's dismantle that. Let's have equal vote and strengthen the international institutions so that ICJ can have power, not only in terms of advisory status. If a country, we issue a arrest warrant, but if a country doesn't want to arrest, let's be on our. So it doesn't have executive effect to that. So strengthen international institutions and by institutions we mean, in a democracy, institution is the currency for you to preserve integrity. Previously, in a monarchy, you have individuals that will safeguard the interests of the nation. Now with democracy, you cannot have any individuals or oligarch or any group. it has to be the institutions that will preserve the rights and dignity of the people. So in terms of international institutions, it has to be consolidated. It cannot be monopoly by any country or any individuals. So, and then of course constant conscientization, which means to continuously have debates, have discussions, spread awareness. Well, this is essentially da'wah, you see. In most Muslim countries, we are so narrow in our understanding of da'wah. Da'wah is what? You convert a person into Islam. It's not. Da'wah is a lifelong activities. It's about spreading the good words and the truth. Inviting people to truth. So da'wah is, say for example, I'm saying we need to have a more just world order. That is a da'wah. You are inviting people to truth, because not many people do that today. People don't really care. You do you, I do me, with our country, you do with your country. So people don't really care. What we need is, we need to invite people. This is the best. Or let's debate. If this is not the best, what can be? So it's a process. Hegel said there must be thesis, antithesis. You'll get the best synthesis. And so with that, to conclude, I would say, if you want to have a better future, you need to start now. And you need to think about your own future. Esteemed audience in front of me come from different background. Some are from here, some are from, you say some are from the United States. UK, so it's fine. And so from other states, you need to think about your future. And it's at various levels. Communal level, state level, international level. Because if you don't think about your own future, someone else will colonize your future. And by that we mean that they will craft where you should go, like what's happening in Palestine right now. It's a different person who's charting their future now. Okay, we want Tony Blair, lead this, we will develop this. It's not the Palestinians. This is, the future is being colonized. Okay, so you need to have discussions, talk about the future that we aspire and the future that we want. And with that, I hope to have some discussions, and I pass back to
Thank you very much,
brother.
So thank you very much for this much needed discussion. So earlier, Ustad 𝐏𝐸𝐿-𝐭-𝐫𝐞, who is a well-known architect and a theorist in Lahore, practicing from last more than 70 years. So he mentioned that there was a series of discussion, and I will just conclude the series of discussion. Then he concluded that there are two different worldviews and philosophies of life. One is called developmental model, that we need development, that we need everything advanced, more advanced, and then the parallel, the antithesis is normative order, that if things are going okay, why the hell do we need to improve? Why the hell do we need to change things? So that's normative order, and usually the civilizations or traditions that are associated to the land, to the soil, are more focused towards normative order. So this is one normative, yeah, normative order. And then Professor Vivek Chibber says that you were saying that the multilateral institutions, and we need multipolar world instead of unipolar world. And Chibber says that this is a misleading notion when we say that there are global south and global north. We have common goals, which is the preservation of human life, which is the preservation of this soil, this land, which is the preservation of human rights. So there is no ifs and buts, there is no global south and global north, global south and global north. I'm afraid this is what I understood from that, and I would like you to give your feedback on that. And third question, that Professor Dr. Neil Postman, he presented a theory that he actually raised 7 questions. He was an American critic, and then he raised 7 questions that whenever we are looking for any improvement, whenever we are seeking any advancement, we need to ask certain questions to ourselves. Why do we need development? And who do we need this development for? Who is going to benefit out of this development? Who is going to face challenges after this development? Who are we working for? So yeah, I mean, this is the question. And then since you said that we need multilateral institutions, multilateral, multipolar world as well. In a multipolar world, how multilateral institutions can work? For instance, if there are hegemons in different parts of the world, why would they follow ICJ? Why would they follow UNO? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those are brilliant questions. Let me start with the first question about normative
and developmental model.
Okay. Remind me again who the theorists for this?
𝐏𝐸𝐿-𝐿, our Ustad.
Okay.
Yeah, so he just presented this.
Okay.
And he, of course, presented this theory after concluding whatever we were discussing earlier.
Yeah. So if I understand similarly to the sub's understanding of developmental model, developmental model is focused primarily on the strengthening of institutions of a country, and the best model of developmental state is South Korea. So in opposition to normative model, which means we need not to effect any change, and
for the sake of change.
For the sake of change. And okay, so let me address that by saying that there are 3 types of minds or mentality in post-colonial states. The first one is a captive mind, which has been popularized, a term popularized by Syed Hussein Alatas, is a sociologist. So he said, a captive mind in post-colonial states are the minds that are fascinated with the advancements of Europe and the US, and therefore could not think anything beyond their model of development or modernity. I think in the context of Malaysia, it's quite apparent. Any concept of development, any concept of economy, any concept of even urban planning, we look to the West. So this is, according to him, is captive mind, because your mind is held captive by your fascination of the West. So it should be something that inspire you to produce your own model or modernity. Second is what we call as the prisoner's mind. The prisoner's mind are minds that are not able to think beyond the current state. Like a prisoner in a solid wall, it cannot think beyond that. So they ended up justifying the status quo. So whatever that we are having now is best for us, and they are not able to think beyond that or to think how to change, instead justifying it. So for example, rather than thinking how unbridled capitalism is causing so much trouble to the people, they ended up justifying, oh look, there are dalil in the Quran that talks about capitalism, for example. Or there are dalil that talk about a certain system or ideology. So this is a prisoner's mind. It cannot think beyond that, instead it's justified the status quo. The third is it's not that it is fascinated with the West or it cannot think about something. It just doesn't care. This is what Abdul Hakim Murad coined as manifragismo. It is a sense of what's the term for that? But it's a sense of not caring to change. Don't have any empathy towards the plight of the poor, say for example, or the future of the nation. You just want to live the life as usual. Yeah, the status quo, yes. And it also doesn't care about changing the status quo or protecting the status quo. So this is the problem that is also plaguing the minds of some communities and societies. Unhinged, yes. That's the Gen Z term, isn't it? These are the three minds that might resonate to your first question.
Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah, okay. So secondly, it's about the...
Professor Chivers.
Yes. Is this the one that you...
Post-colonial critic.
Okay. So, yes, we should have the courage and will. It's a simple word, to have the courage and will, but it's not easy to be done, especially when you have power. We should have courage and will to invite people for dialogue and building civilization together. This is so ideal. This is so ideal. But we have to preach this. A civilizational world is possible with the cooperation of both sides, the global north and the global south, so to speak.
So Professor Chivers says that when we create this notion that there is global south and global north is the one who created this democracy, created idea of human rights, humanism, etc. So we are actually unconsciously supporting that they are superior beings, and when we are discussing human rights, since we're talking about global south, global north, so since they are the ones who created these ideas, so they deserve better. They know they are the ones who produced democratic governments, so they will be better governed governments because they are the founders of these ideas. So he says that we cannot advocate equality, we cannot advocate equal justice for global south and global north when we appreciate this notion. This is what I understood. I don't know. I mean, maybe Professor Shiva would disagree with me that I didn't mean that, but this is what I understood. So what would you like to say about it?
Yeah, so yesterday we also have pretty much the same question, probably much more simpler. He said, does Islam accept democracy? So I said to him, yes, and this might apply to your question, because of the notion of equality, human rights comes from the West. Yes, democracy is devised and arranged and making systematized by the father of liberalism like John Locke and his successors, but does not mean the idea that they carry and propagate is antagonistic to Islam simply because it comes from the West. Even the Prophet make use of the mushrik, the idolater, to make use of his knowledge of geography, of the Mecca and Medina terrain to go to Hijrah. He doesn't want to only appoint Muslim for that. So it's based on this expertise. So I said, in Islam, it may not mention specifically democracy, but it has some semblance to that. For example, the Quran emphasizes extremely on the importance of shura. In the modern term, you might call it participatory democracy. وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. This is an instruction or the practice of Bilqis, the Queen of Sheba, having consultation with the generals. How should we respond to Solomon? Should we respond with army or should... So it's discussing and having consultation with the stakeholders is a modern sentence for democracy, but it's the essence is in Islam as well, and not to mention the appointment of Omar, Uthman and Ali through consultations.
Thank you.
And the appointments of Abu Bakr is a democracy based on majority. So who appoints Abu Bakr at the Saqifa Bani Sa'idah? So the majority, and therefore Abu Bakr is appointed as the first caliph. So does not mean we should. Yeah.
I was reading
Come.
the question after you were done.
Okay. So
one last question. He's just answering the last question.
Okay.
So does not mean we are opposing democracy simply because it comes from the West or the global North. But I think we should evaluate and discuss critically all these ideas.
So since I was moderating, so I tried to be a little hegemonic. Since I was moderating, so I tried to be a little hegemonic, and I asked...
So you understand nothing from this discussion. We're talking about dethroning hegemony.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, over to you, the last question, and then please take other questions.
So Neil Postman talks about...
the last question was about... Neil Postman was to appreciate what you said, because he said the similar thing, but the last question was that when we have multipolar institutions, a multipolar world and multilateral institution, how can a multipolar and a multilateral institution go side by side? Different regions, different polars, different poles of the world will have different status quo and their own interest. How would they come under ICJ and the other such institutions?
So managing this boils down to the problem of managing differences. Essentially, when you have everybody at the same level, how to manage differences. This say, okay, arrest this person. They say, no, we're not going to arrest. So it's a shura, and I think this, I believe in process rather than the outcome. So long we have this process and it's transparent, and all arguments are being tabled according to logics and international interests of rights of the human everywhere across borders. So that's the best way forward. We should strive for that. How does this fit in a post-hegemonic world? So essentially we talk about if the process of reaching a decision is done in a transparent and accountable manner, whatever the outcome is, according to us may be bad, but according to others it may be good. What's important is to preserve the process. No one cannot contravene the process or bypass the process. This is what we talk about institution. If we preserve the institution, that will safeguard the interests of the many from being abused or contravened or bypassed by some superpowers.
Thank you very much. Over to the audience. You guys, is it?
Okay. If anyone wants, they can ask a question before me.
You ask, and then maybe they will ask.
Okay. So my question, I have two questions. If you could please tell me about that. What's your experience? I'm sure there are madrasas in Malaysia as well, along with the universities which provide the secular education, etc., etc. So there is this phenomenon which everyone is aware about, at least in the context of, I'm not aware if there is some improvement within madrasa curriculum, etc., but in general, by and large, there is a bifurcation between the religious and the non-religious sciences in at least the Pakistani madrasas, which was historically very different in the early medieval era and in the high central ages, when there are many people who have done extensively good in science, etc., etc., who had backgrounds in madrasa, etc., etc. So, what is your experience in the case of Malaysia? Do you have this bifurcation of, like, there are people who are exclusively studying the religious sciences and have nothing to do with the secular and the worldly knowledge, or there is some improvement in that? One, this, Should I ask both?
On a lighter note, there was this scholar, Pakistani historian actually, scholar Qudratullah Shahab, and he wrote one in his Shahabnama that there is a very big religious gathering happens every year, once a year. I'm talking about the Dawa group specifically. So in 1960s, late 60s, there was a martial law in place in Pakistan, and around 1 lakh people, 1,000 people gathered in this area near Lahore. So he sent the intelligence guys, go check. I mean, there are 100,000 people gathering all together. I mean, I'm afraid maybe they are planning something against the martial law. So go check and then tell me what they are planning. So somebody just came and then he said, you don't need to worry. They're either talking about 1400 years before the time, or else they talk about when they will die. So they don't live in the present moment. They're not talking about the present moment. This is the situation. Yeah.
They are not radicals. Okay. So, Khizar, it's the same. In Malaysia, we have a madrasah that are focusing solely on religious sciences, and they don't teach natural sciences or the human sciences, we call it, in the madrasah. But the government has devised policies to change this, to integrate natural sciences and the human sciences. I suppose you know human sciences, sociology, literature, into the curriculum, so that they will learn not only tafsir, hadith, but also learn about history, language, science, which makes it no different than modern educational system. It's just that they have some emphasis and long tradition of religious knowledge. But we also need to look into the objective of madrasah. Sometimes it's focusing solely on producing an expert or a master of hadith, say for example. So it's focused solely on hadith. But I get your point. In knowledge, everything is integrated. You cannot have bifurcation or compartmentalization of knowledge. So in Malaysia, the experience is the same, but we are now moving towards integrating it.
This bifurcation is not there in Islam. That these are the Islamic subjects and these are the worldly subjects.
True.
Because God has said that my people are those, mu'mineen are those who remember me while they are sitting, lying down or doing, and then they ponder upon each and everything which I have created.
Yes.
And then they give me a certificate that God, you have not created any non-serious thing. So there is no bifurcation in Islam.
I agree.
We have brought this bifurcation. I don't know why. Might be that we are impressed from the Europe.
And in actually defense to that, somebody, I mean, mostly because we are following the Western model here as well, Western education model as well. So somebody just comes up and then they say, no, we need to educate people about the current life as well, and then they start teaching them biological sciences, chemistry and physics and computer sciences to the students of theology, because they think that they need to be aware about the modern sciences as well. But actually, I don't think so. This is my humble opinion that that's fruitful.
The thing is that first we should have a phase of general knowledge, right? What I am studying till matric or O-level, A-level, it is the general knowledge, which everybody should possess. And then I should choose a side or a discipline where I want to go. It's not that from the outset he is made a doctor, no? Right? So general knowledge is also required for a balanced development of a personality. And then he can choose, go any side he wants to go. He can become a Muslim religious scholar, he can become a doctor, he can become an engineer.
So Khizar has a second question, please.
1 second. So might be worthwhile to quote Sayyid Naqib Al-Attas. He's a living philosopher now, 94 maybe his age. He wrote that, and this is quite transformative. He said, Fardu Ain in Islam, okay, what do we know about Fardu Ain? Tahara, Ibadat, and then Muamalat, Hajj. Okay. He said, Fardu Ain should not be static in Islam. Fardu Ain basically is a fundamental knowledge, right? Fundamental, which means everybody has to learn this. It should not be static. It should address the need of the age. So, if we think, and this is based on the consultation with the experts, the teachers, learning a certain history is important. It should be taught to all schoolgoers. So, I got your point. Yes, you're saying about Fardu Ain, and then at certain level they become an expert, which is a Fardu Kifai. They will learn something that others probably don't learn. Yeah, like myself, I'm probably focusing on. I don't learn deeply on science, but I do have some knowledge about the basis of science, which I consider as Fardu Ain. So, yes, I got your point, and I just want to quote about this Fardu Ain, so it opens our dynamic discussion about the importance of reform in the educational system of the Muslim world. That's a good question. This is a question of a guideline or the boundaries of free speech. Is it something like that? Yeah. Different cultures, different regions have different interpretation of that. So, for example, in China, you cannot say anything bad against the government. I think the same applies in Saudi Arabia as well. I have many friends, their phones are being tapped. So whenever we have discussions, and he knows I'm going to raise things about this, so we put the phone away, a few meters away. In Malaysia, our line of free speech is not to touch about 3R, the race, religion, and the royalty. You cannot touch about these 3R because it usually causes uproar and discontentment of some groups and others. So I think if you ask me about the process, I cannot give you the universal solution, but if you ask me about the process, I think any guideline that will be applied to people, or say if you want to promulgate a law, it has to be in a democratic manner and accountable. People need to chip in their opinion on this. Say, we are fine if you want to talk about religion freely. You can talk about Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, and others. If the majority of people is like that, then that's the culture of that country, and you cannot stop them from talking about religion. So it applies differently to different contexts, I would say. So you talk about China. Is it the right thing to do? They cannot criticize the government. Well, if the majority is okay with that, I'm not against it. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That answers my other question that I was asking earlier. That in a multipolar world, multipolar systems will have multipolar interpretations of truth.
Oh, yeah.
And that will be, of course, very difficult. What is human and what is inhuman will differ in different contexts. We have a younger colleague here, and I would really like if she shares what she understood and if she has some comments. We're talking about you, the granddaughter. Did you understand anything? Just say anything. Okay, just say that I don't want to say anything. So Haris, do you have something? Okay. You were being used as a scapegoat today. I had to use this example again and again. So I hope you understand what is Jamaat-e-Islami. It's a religious. Yeah.
We learn about them in Malaysia.
Oh, you really? You do learn about
it? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Salman sir, do you have any question? Dr. Saiba? Sir, would you like to? Thank you.
I think that you can also speak in Urdu, and then you will help translate for me if you have any comment.
No.
All right.
Surgeon here. She doesn't listen. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. It was to be honest, let me confess, I didn't expect that it would be this exciting, the conversation, for me at least. I mean, of course, I was expecting, I'm not undermining you, I'm just saying that you've surpassed my own expectations even for this conversation. And those who came all the way in this cold weather and smoky weather, and from the different parts of Lahore, of course. Thank you very much for joining us, and just like that, keep following us, keep coming to...
Can I give a closing remark, so to speak?
Please.
Thank you very much. I cherish this kind of initiative. I really appreciate it. And I told to my younger colleagues in the university, I said, if you would like me to support in any means that I can, in terms of having discussion and debates for the future, for the interest of the people, interest of the ummah, interest of the country, interest of the nation, interest of the humanity at large, let me know and I will by any means support it. So this is rare nowadays, especially in the economic hardship and everything. We are so disturbed and we are swayed from the original mission as a Khalifah in this world. I hope we could have remedies to the three mentalities that I mentioned about the captive mind, the prisoner's mind, and manifragismo. And when we talk about decolonization of knowledge, decolonizing modernity, decolonizing the future, it's about giving agency to the people so that they can have confidence in themselves and chart the future of their own. And I think this has to start now. It's long overdue. So thank you again for participating, and I'm happy to be here. I hope this will be a long-term friendship and collaboration.
Inshallah.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for coming to Lahore and keep coming.